over the weekend, there was a Zoom call with a bunch of these running backs, most notably Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, Saquon Barkley of the Giants, and who's Tony?
Tony Pollard?
Tony Pollard of the Cowboys, amongst others. Now, when I hear group immediate emergency Zoom call, I'm brought back to the time of COVID, right? Zoom call, the term Zoom call didn't exist. The company existed, but the term, nobody said Zoom call before COVID. And do you guys remember that? And before I could even get to what was accomplished or not accomplished, I'm just picturing somebody was muted who didn't want to be muted. Somebody's video was off, probably for good reason, but maybe not. Right? There's definitely, who do we think was the first one in the room? Who organized it and set up all the emails?
Yeah, was there a waiting area?
Who was the last one waiting and ended up running late? Like, oh man, time zones. I got all screwed up on it. Because that's what a Zoom call is. And then people talking all over each other. And what was accomplished? Nothing. Well, Josh Jacobs is I'm going home from Las Vegas because I don't want to sign a franchise tender. Look, which you're allowed to do. Okay. I guest hosted the Herd on Friday. And I gave this analogy, okay, but there's actually a better one. So, do you ever walk up? This is a different analogy than Friday. You'll like this one, Jay Stu. I haven't run it by you. One of the most frustrating things in air travel is when you get to a gate and maybe it's closer than the 15 minutes, like especially when you're connecting. A lot of people have been traveling this summer. Your flight's delayed. You land in Dallas and you're like in the A terminal and your next flight is out of the E terminal. And so you got to collect all your stuff. Somebody's got to let you off the plane. You finally get off. You sprint to that escalator that takes you to the tram. Then you got to find the right stop on the tram. Then you get off the tram. Then you run down the escalator. Then you get to the gate. It's like 13 minutes before the flight. And you see the plane still sitting there. And that door is closed. And you're like, can you open the door? They're like, sir, we're sorry. FAA regulations, we can't open that door. Like, the plane is still there. Then you see some flight attendant, they scan their card, and they go through, and they walk down, and they get on the plane. Yo, they just got on, like, sir, we're sorry. Okay, I think that's what NFL running backs thought. Is like, hey, they can open that door. They can fix it. Right? Like Saquon Barkley. Hey, Saquon Barkley, mad after the Monday deadline. You read the CBA guidelines. You had all this time. You had from the day of the season ended until last Monday at 1 o'clock West Coast time, 4 o'clock East Coast time. This is not a case of going up to the gate and that door is closed. This is you go to the gate and the plane is gone. Dude, the plane is, look, the plane is not there. Once the plane is gone, there's nothing we can do. Yes, we all know that if they really want to, they can go like, oh, you're already checked in. I can find a way, your bags or whatever. They can do you a solid. The plane has actually left. This is like the train has left the station. It's not turning around. The analogy I used Friday was this is going into your professor after the grades have already come out and going like, hey, is there something I can do to get my grade up? They're like, this would have been really good back before we put out our final grades. But I'm just picturing the Zoom call. Like, hey, what can we do? Can we like we're members of the NFLPA. Okay, well, when's this collective bargaining agreement expire? 7 years from now. Literally, these guys who are talking about making a change will not be in the NFL when the new collective bargaining agreement is negotiated. And, oh yeah, by the way, the strong likelihood is that what is the leverage point for the rest of the union? Because, again, this is They actually are super screwed. Let me explain. The way a union works, okay, is all of the members have to vote, right? And this is what's always, people have always gotten caught up in quarterback contracts, guaranteed money, blah, 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 okay? But the truth is what really matters to a union is what's called the rank and file, right? The dudes that you don't know, that you don't see. There's more of them than there are Aaron Rodgers and Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson, right? On any team, there are 5 starting linemen. There are likely to be 9 linemen overall, right? And there's 2 to 3 quarterbacks. There's your ratio. So it's not like the Senate where there's 2 guys voting. It's true democracy. Everybody's got to vote in a union. So what's most important is minimum contracts. What's the floor of the salary cap, not the ceiling of the salary cap. Not guaranteed money for superstars who are making more money than they could ever possibly spend. It's how much guaranteed money for the rank and file there is. So you mean to tell me that the union in 6 years when they start renegotiating is sit there going to go, okay, we got 3 running backs, guys that are still well compensated, right? They're somewhere between the 2nd and 4th to 5th highest paid, the starters, highest paid guy on a team. So we're going to care more about them. Remember, all the money in a salary cap, if a team saves money with a running back, they can spend it elsewhere. They have 0 leverage point, except for Josh Jacobs to no-show. And here's the downside to no-showing. 1, there's no reason that they can't discover another running back who's on the cheap. That's what happened with the Chiefs last year, right? Isaiah Pacheco's a 7th-round pick. He becomes their starting running back for the Super Bowl. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is like, why would we give you a second big contract after giving you a big contract for your first-round pick? So you're replaceable. And we all, it's actually, there's a parallel to everybody's work, right? Don't you? I mean, it's one of those, I got a little Jay Leno in me where I never want to take a day off because I don't want, like Muncie came in here with Dan Byer and they were awesome filling in. I don't want them to be better than me. Right? Because you go like, hey, well, we could pay Muncie and Dan less than paying you. And it's the same thing in anybody's business. Everybody fears that. That's very reasonable. Okay?
I'm not going to let that happen, by the way. Monsi's going to get the same money as you.
Okay. The point is, Monsi's sitting there pumping her fist. She's so funny. The point is that the whole exercise is so ridiculous. Plus, look, I get you miss training camp and you're not hurt. You're all fresh when you get ready to start week 1 of the season. The problem with that is you're much more likely to sustain some sort of soft tissue injury. You haven't taken hits, and so it's going to beat you up more. You also can piss off your coaches if you don't know everything that's going on. And, oh, yeah, by the way, all of these teams, Cowboys, Raiders, Giants, they can sign you as a franchise taggy next year if you play this year and they want you back and you want millions more than they're willing to offer. And if they don't offer you a franchise tag, you're a free agent. And if you didn't have a great season because you sat out preseason and you came in and you got hurt or things don't go well, like you're not even going to make the $10 million that you're set to make next year. But everyone I know completely understands this. This is basic business, econ 101. The NFL has evolved out of overpaying for running backs in their second contracts where they're more likely to get hurt, they're not as productive, and oh yeah, by the way, you can find 3 dudes to do the one guy's job. Do you want a great back when it's 3rd and 2 and you got to get a first down? Yeah, of course. Of course. But at what price? It's just a balance. And again, the Nyheim Hines is the perfect example. right? So they'll probably go, okay, we need a running back. Who's on a roster? Can those guys fit it? Or do we want to bring in Leonard Fournette? Do we want to bring in Ezekiel Elliott? Do we want to go get Dalvin Cook? Are we worried about the Dalvin Cook off the field issues? And do you think for 1 second they're going to offer Dalvin Cook anything more than, $4 or $5 million? He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have leverage. And once they start camp, he may be able to find a home, but not in a team that can win a Super Bowl. Nyheim Hines will be replaced by the Buffalo Bills with somebody who makes somewhere in the neighborhood of the money he makes, which is only like $3 million this year. And if the guy plays well, he might get another deal, or they might go another way next year. Which, of course, does a tremendous amount of damage to Tony Pollard, to Josh Jacobs, to Saquon Barkley. And we can sit here and go like, hey, look at Daniel Jones when he has Saquon Barkley. Remember, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley were both offered contract extensions. The Giants never dialed back their contract extension. It was like supposedly $12 million a year. He chose not to take it. Now he's on the franchise tag. But while we can point out how much better they are when Saquon Barkley runs for 100 yards, we could also go and say, hey, the Carolina Panthers trade away Christian McCaffrey and became better running the football. We can go back to the LA Rams winning a Super Bowl with one running back who tore his Achilles tendon to start the year, was like a third or fourth round pick. And the other one was on the street and played on two other teams in the same season. So in the all-time boring, we've all been on boring, disastrous. Why are we even talking about this? It's already done. Hey, fellas, it's not the boarding door that's closed. The plane has left the airport. It is en route or en route. Do you go route or route? I think it's en route. But is there really a difference other than which syllable you pronounce? And I got to think that was the boringest, most redundant, everybody get on their soapbox and say how the world's not fair, that ends up with nothing to come out of it in the history of the NFL. And we can all relate to those boring-ass Zoom calls, which came into existence during COVID.